want to address some stuff that, there's extremes. You have people who are like Canelo. You have people who don't like Canelo. You have people who like Floyd. You have people who don't like Floyd. So there's these extremes that you get with people kind of pick sides and they try to say things like they are impartial, but really and truly, there's echoing sentiments in the echo chamber. And the thing about life is this: you can say one thing, but you have to back it up with some facts. That's just the way our life goes. So I heard several different things. And right now, I just want to clarify some information here that was given by Goodfella Sports TV. Shout out to Goodfella Sports TV. So Goodfella Sports TV said, Canelo's always been like this all along. He really wasn't a guy that really wanted to take the smoke. He wanted a guy to go to the smoke. You look at his history, and he cited, I think, him versus Khan and stuff like that. But truth be told, that's one thing he said, and he went in on Canelo. This is how this guy has always been, and he always wanted the easy fights, and he tried to duck. He ducked a lot of guys. And listen, to be fair, Canelo Alvarez did duck 3 individuals in his entire career, or at least he didn't initially face them. Actually, yeah, 3. First one was, this one we didn't even know about it until later on. Golden Boy protected Canelo from Jamel Charlo, who wanted to face him. Okay? Now, Maul wasn't a guy that necessarily wanted to face Canelo. He was chirping and all of that, but clearly Maul didn't want to face Canelo because he ended up not facing Canelo twice. In fact, the Jaime Munguia fight came after Canelo was negotiating to fight Jamal Charlo and David Benavidez, okay? That's from what we know. But anyways, Mel was one who wanted to face Canelo. He finally faced Canelo when he had to jump up 2 weight classes to face him. And the other person is Demetrius Andrew, who Canelo has not faced to this day. And here's what it is. Andrew had been chasing him. Canelo kept on running away from him, okay? So that's 2. Now, people claim that Canelo ducked Gennady Golovkin. I don't believe that. And then the last person now is David Benavidez. Okay, so let me get to the point here. Dude was saying that Canelo had some questionable decisions. He said, there was match fixing with Canelo. He's saying that Canelo been a fraud all along, the clenbuterol thing, and so on and so on and so on about Canelo. Goodfellas Sports TV saying Canelo's a fraud. He shouldn't even be a pound-for-pound fighter. He shouldn't be even listed in the Boxing Hall of Fame. And he just went to town on Canelo. But I want you guys to see the facts of the matter. All right? I want you guys to see the facts of the matter on this Canelo thing, because Canelo's a great fighter. He's going to go down in the Boxing Hall of Fame. He's not a fraud. He wanted the smoke. Throughout his career. Yes, he was moved along really nicely by Golden Boy. Let's be real. Golden Boy seems as though match fixed certain fights for him. This is true. All of this is true. But at the end of the day, Canelo Alvarez faced tougher competition than any contemporary of his time. You look at Jamel Charlo, he hasn't faced that kind of competition. You look at Demetrius Andrew, he hasn't faced that kind of competition. You look at almost any fighter, any of his contemporaries, and even the younger fighters, nobody's faced the kind of competition that Canelo has. Say what you want about him. Now, here's what I want to show you guys. So this is Canelo's boxing record, okay? And I'm not here to just show you his boxing record. I'm here to also show you some clips and things that were said in real time, all right, about Canelo Alvarez. But let's just start off with his boxing record. So we start debunking some stuff about Canelo from the jump. First thing people said was that Canelo Alvarez, he won his first title, which was a vacant WBC light middleweight title, by facing a guy who wasn't the world champion, which is Matthew Hatton. What they forget to mention is that Canelo faced Lovemore Endu the fight before, who was the former IBF champion. So you see, a lot of people, they leave out pieces of the puzzle. Carlos Baldomir was an old guy, okay? So Canelo slapped him. He was a former fighter who faced Floyd Mayweather, was a welterweight, and then went up to super welterweight. Gave Vernon Forrest a hell of a fight. But he was real old when he faced Canelo. He was about 7 years older. I think it was 7 years later. But what people forget is that the experience he got with Carlos Baldomir, he used in the Lovemore Ndu fight, which went 12 rounds, by the way, because Lovemore Ndu is a good fighter, always has been a good fighter. And he had what was known at the time as the WBC Silver Light Middleweight title, okay? Now, a lot of people go in on Canelo for fighting Matthew Hatton for a vacant WBC Light Middleweight title, okay? And the contemporaries at that time, in March of 2011, I believe Miguel Cotto was on the scene at the time. Miguel Cotto was the WBA champion. I think he just recently became WBA champion. Canelo always wanted to face Cotto. He ended up facing Cotto much later on. And at that time, hold on a second. Let me just share this information to you guys so you can see who the other champions were. So in 2011, all right. So in 2011, Miguel Cotto, I believe, was the WBA champion. I could be wrong, but let me see. I should be able to scroll down and see that. Yes. So here we are. Yes. So he was the WBA light middleweight champion because he beat Yuri Foreman. So in 2011, oh, sorry, my bad. Actually, let me see. Yes. In 2011, he was the WBA champion. And who was the other champion? The other champion, it's a good question. I think Kermit Cintron was the IBF champion or something like that. Let me see, 2011. No, Cintron was not the IBF champion. Who was the IBF champion? It's a really great question. Who was the IBF champion in 2011? Let me see. It wasn't Erislandy Lara, though he was on the rise. 2014, he became champion. So let's see who it is. 2011, Carlos Molina. It was one of these guys. I don't think it was Carlos Molina. I think it was Carlos Molina was champion in 2013. It's one of these guys. It's either Ishe Smith or Cornelius Bundridge. One of them. Let's see who it is. It's either Cornelius Bundridge or Ishe Smith. Yes, Cornelius Bundridge, who had beaten Corey Spinks, was the IBF light middleweight champion at that time. Okay? So you had Canelo Alvarez, who became the WBC champion in that year. You had Cornelius Bundridge, who was the IBF champion, and he ended up being a long-reigning IBF champion. You also had Miguel Cotto, who was the WBA champion. Who was the WBO champion? I don't know. Some European guy, I'm assuming. Let's see. I think it was this guy. Sergey Dzink-Zaruk. I believe he was the WBO champion. Yes, but he got stripped And then Zurbek Beysangurov was the other guy. Okay? So, Daniel Santos, he beat Daniel Santos, this guy. This guy here. Zurhi Zinkziruk. Okay, and then he got stripped. And Zurbek Beysangurov became the champion at the end of 2011. So Canelo, when he became champion here against Matthew Hatton at March 2011, he had some European guy who was the WBO champion. You had Cornelius Bundridge, who was the IBF champion, and you had Miguel Cotto, who was the WBA champion, okay? So why this is important is because y'all talk about, how he faced Matthew Hatton and, got this vacant title. But what y'all forget to say is, one, he faced Lovemore Endu before that, who was a former IBF champion. I believe he was the IBF champion, not at welterweight. I think it was at super lightweight. Let me just check. Lovemore Endu. So a former world champion, basically. Yeah. So Ricky Hatton got stripped, and Lovemore Endu was the IBF junior lightweight to welterweight champion in 2007. There's a contemporary sort of, kind of a little after Floyd there. He was succeeded by Paulie Malignaggi, who became the IBF welterweight world champion. And what's important to understand about Lovemore Endu is that he went on to. He was always a very good boxer, right? And, he went the distance with Canelo. That was in 2007. He moved up to super lightweight 3 years later. He fought at welter for a brief moment, and then he went up to super lightweight. He was contending there. Just so you guys could see, because he never was stopped in his career, another very important thing for people to remember, fortunately we don't have his whole entire career here, is he then went on in 2011 to face Kell Brook and Gary Sinclair. He'd never been stopped in his career. He lost some fights. But, Gary Sinclair, by the way, was also another world champion. Former world champion, but, a veteran by that time. Lovemore Endu is a very smart guy as well. He continued his career in law, and he's actually a legal mind now in his home country. But the point being that Lovemore Endu, who's a South African Australian guy, he was a former world champion. Okay, so was Carlos Baldomir. So was also Miguel. What's his name? Miguel. Let me see if I find him. Miguel Vasquez, okay? Miguel Vasquez became a future world champion. So I just want to point that out, because a lot of people say, Canelo, he fought Matthew Hatton to become, world champion. Well, he's a young world champion. I mean, the guy's super young. He's not even 20 years old when he becomes world champion. And then you have Ryan Rose, Alfonso Gomez, who was a veteran by that point in time, almost to the end of his career. Then he fights Kermit Cintron. Kermit Cintron at the time, I think the year before, and I think I should be able to show you this. As you can see, Kermit Cintron the year before was actually the number one welterweight in the world, even though he had that mishap with Paul Williams, okay, where he fell out the ring and all that kind of craziness. Paul Williams moved up to, I believe, middleweight at the time. So Kermit Cintron became the number one guy at super welterweight. Then Miguel Cotto took it over after he beat Yuri Foreman. The important thing is that in 2011, and by the way, Canelo had 4 fights in 2011, Kermit Cintron being the last one of them. In 2011, Kermit Cintron, who was the number one guy that year, and then Cotto became the number one guy, he got knocked out by Canelo. Now, to be fair, Kermit Cintron was not nowhere near the prime Kermit Cintron we saw. He wasn't that guy. You know, he was. In fact, if I'm not mistaken, I think that was the last fight of Kermit Cintron's career. If I'm not mistaken, let me see. No, not exactly. It was the last big fight of his career. So after Canelo beat him, he didn't have any other big fights. That was it. He had big fights with Carlos Molina. Carlos Molina had beaten him. He had some fights with Paul Williams. Paul Williams had beaten him. He had with Alfredo Angulo. He had beaten Angulo. He drew. He drew with Sergio Martinez, believe it or not. All right. So, you know, he had some respectable names, but he was closer to the end of his career because by the time he had faced Canelo, it was 2011, and he had a couple more fights. But his career dragged out. But I mean, he finished fighting in 2018. But these were not really top guys. Tyron Bronson, these guys are not. They're not elite fighters at all. He had that fight with Adrian Granados, believe it or not, and they fought to a draw. Adrian Granados was a welterweight. So I'm just saying, you know, he didn't really have anything else after that. And he fought for many years after, but it was like once a year kind of thing going on. So, to be fair, when Canelo did face Kermit Cintron, he got more experience than anything else from Kermit Cintron. Then he fought a Shane Mosley, who was, again, at the end of his line. So, you know, again, just experience. Remember, this is a young champion, right? He's a young champion. He's a young guy. Golden Boy did a great job moving him along. I gotta admit that. All the time, Canelo's wanting to fight Miguel Cotto. He's wanting to fight Floyd Mayweather, okay? Then, after he fights Shane Mosley, so all the guys I just mentioned, they were bona fide super welterweights. Until we reach Josecito Lopez. Josecito Lopez was not a super welterweight in any way, shape, or form. He was a super lightweight, but he was a very exciting fighter. And he actually got his licks in on Canelo, to be fair. This actually was a pretty competitive fight for 5 rounds. Canelo's just bigger and stronger. And so he beat down Josecito Lopez. But suffice it to say, this was a smaller guy coming up in weight, so you had to think about all of that. Keep that in consideration. So this fight here is the one fight which it's a developmental fight too, but it's more of a confidence booster. Seeing Canelo, people thought Canelo would get Shane Mosley out of there. He did not get Shane Mosley out of there. Shane Mosley was, competitive to the very end. Nobody's ever gotten Shane Mosley out of there, really, to be honest with you. If it wasn't for the injury that Shane Mosley had against, I forgot what the guy's name is, the guy in Australia, I think Shane Mosley would have kept on fighting. And Shane Mosley could take punishment, I'm telling you. Now, his real fight, his real test was against Austin Trout. Okay? This is the fight people say Trout won. I don't believe it. Okay? I've seen the fight. It was open scoring. Yes, the judges were scoring extremely wide and very biased. But that was a fight I thought Canelo won. Okay? I thought he won. I thought his defense was great. I thought Austin Trout was trying really hard later down the stretch to close the gap. But I think Canelo's dropping Austin Trout 1 to his defense, I think made a big difference in that fight. And to me, Canelo looked like Mayweather in that fight. I thought Austin Trout was always behind the ball. Apparently, the judges saw it even wider than I saw it. I thought it was a closer fight than the judges' decision was. However, I don't think the result was controversial at all. Okay? Now, Austin Trout had just beaten Miguel Cotto. Canelo wanted to fight Miguel Cotto. Unfortunately, Miguel Cotto got beaten by Austin Trout, so Canelo ended up facing Austin Trout. A lot of people recommended that Canelo did not take that fight. Okay? This is the history. I'm giving you guys the history of it. A lot of people said Canelo shouldn't take that fight. Austin Trout is a slick black fighter, blah, 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 blah. Southpaw, all that. Well, Canelo dropped Austin Trout. All right? Austin Trout was winning the earlier rounds, but Canelo was there with him. And then things really turned, I thought, when Canelo dropped Austin Trout. Austin Trout became more desperate. to win rounds and stuff like that. He was much more offensive-minded. Canelo was much more defensive-minded and countering in between with his defense. It was a hell of a fight in the sense of Austin Trout really trying to close that gap and get back in the fight. I think because people saw Austin Trout so much more aggressive, I think they thought he was winning rounds because Canelo was no longer coming to him and pushing him back. But in fact, Canelo was actually using his defense. Austin Trout wasn't really landing much of anything, and Canelo was countering him at will and having fun countering him at will. And so I thought Canelo won the fight, not by as wide a margin as the judges had it. Definitely not in certain rounds that the judges had Canelo winning, but I thought he won that fight. And people always thought it was controversial. I never understood that. So I say this to say, I thought Canelo beat Austin Trout. Austin Trout is a quality fighter, but I thought he beat him. After Canelo dropped Austin Trout kept getting dropped in successive fights after that. So that's just all for the record, so people will know. Austin No Drought Trout, who really built his reputation on beating Mika Cotto, and was an undefeated fighter when he faced Canelo. Canelo rose to the challenge. So when people say Canelo ducked and dodged Austin Trout, or he was, Austin Trout was robbed, they're especially being bitter about it. Okay, because that's not what happened. After that, Canelo wanted the Mayweather fight. He had called out Mayweather in 2011 after he became world champion, saying that he would go down to 150 pounds to face Floyd Mayweather. Canelo was a big, growing guy at the time. By the time 2013 came around, Floyd Mayweather called him on his bluff to get an extra advantage over him. They settled at 152 pounds. Canelo was weight compromised, as we all know. Floyd fought for leverage, and that's what he got. And as a result of that, Floyd Mayweather he basically whitewashed Canelo in that fight. He robbed Canelo of his confidence, all that kind of stuff. Canelo rebounded with the Alfredo Angulo fight. Alfredo Angulo just fought Erislandy Lara and had dropped Erislandy Lara twice, was on his way to looking like he was going to stop Erislandy Lara, and Lara landed or thumbed Angulo. Some people say he thumbed Angulo. Some people say that Angulo got hit with a tremendous shot and it swelled up his eye, and the referee stopped the fight. Angulo is known, El Perro, as a very relentless fighter. At the time, he was seen as a feared fighter in the division. And he came in to fight Canelo Alvarez, and Alvarez pretty much dominated him. Like, whereas Erislandy Lara didn't dominate him, Canelo dominated him. And that set up the Erislandy Lara fight. Yeah, Erislandy Lara was talking that shit all the time. Canelo said, all right, fine. And he took on Erislandy Lara. A fight again Golden Boy did not recommend he have. But he fought Erislandy Lara, took him on. You know what I'm saying? And that's what a lot of people forget. This is not a fight in which Canelo shied away from. He went to the smoke. So when, Goodfellas Sports TV talks about how Canelo, this is his nature, he always ducks the smoke, that's not true at all. He had smoke with Austin Trout. He had smoke with Floyd Mayweather. It broke his confidence for a bit. He built back his confidence against Alfredo Angulo. Canelo loves fighting Mexicans because they're the easiest style for him. He really looks good when he fights against Mexicans. All right? So he took on Erislandy Lara. And Erislandy Lara had a slick style. Canelo was having difficulty with that style. Erislandy Lara was dominating him for about 4 rounds. And then Canelo his body work started to kick in. And that's when the fight sort of swung in his favor for a bit. Lara still landing those brutal headshots, but Canelo just really beating down on Lara's body, wore him down, and that's how he got the split decision win. He went to the body exclusively, chopped down the tree. And I'm telling you, man, Erislandy Lara made it to the finish line, but man, that guy, he got beat up to the body. Canelo also went to the head, but he busted up Erislandy Lara's eye, dipping into an uppercut. Canelo he was brutal. Now, he never gave Erislandy Lara that rematch. That was the only thing that I did not like. The split decision could have gone either way, to be honest with you. I thought Canelo finished strong, so I gave him the decision. But at the end of the day, he beat Erislandy Lara, a guy that lots of people avoided at the time. Erislandy Lara, nobody wanted to smoke with Erislandy Lara. He was like one of the most avoided fighters. and Canelo went to the smoke. So when anybody tries to tell you that Canelo used to duck and dodge fighters, that's bullshit. Okay? Now his next fight was against no defense, Mr. James Kirkland. And how that fight went is exactly how I expected it to go. Because James Kirkland, he ain't got no defense. He's just a tough guy. Tough Southboy guy. And he really came. He brought the heat in the first round of Canelo. Canelo weathered the storm and then knocked his ass out, which was expected. Now, I didn't think the James Kirkland fight, to be honest with you, was a big hoopla. I guess that one was for the fans and to just get a knockout after the Erislandy Lara fight. It was a good choice in fight because James Kirkland hadn't fought in a long time, had to bring down his weight, didn't even have the same trainer he was usually used to, which was Ann Wolf. So it was all a recipe for James Kirkland to get knocked the fuck out, get a paycheck, and go home, right? So if you guys talk about James Kirkland fight and that was a trash fight or whatever, I'm not gonna argue with you about that. I thought it was like a stay busy in between because I mean you come from the level of fighting Erislandy Lara to James Kirkland. I mean, come on now. He's a tough guy, don't get me wrong, but he's just not on Canelo's level. So it was a spectacular knockout. Obviously, that was just a fight to get a knockout. Now, after that fight, this is important for people to understand, okay? I want you guys to see what was happening. Canelo got his fight with Miguel Cotto because Miguel Cotto became the lineal middleweight champion of the world. Nobody got a problem with that. The people had a problem with this. This is why they had a problem with Canelo. From the Alfredo Angulo, Erislandy Lara, and James Kirkland fights, all those fights were at 155 pounds. What people started calling Canelo weight. This was a direct response of Canelo being weight trained when he faced Floyd Mayweather. He said, you know what, I'm not fighting at 154 no more. And Erislandy Lara at the time was the WBA champion. Okay? He didn't even fight for Erislandy Lara's belt. He didn't want the belt. He fought at 155, which everybody started calling Canelo weight. The problem with Canelo, that a lot of people didn't like, was they felt he was a diva. They felt he did what he wanted to do, and nobody could reprimand him. You know, he was fighting out all these catch weights because he don't want to lose that extra poundage to go down to 154. And this is the direct reaction to him pushing back on the fact that Floyd made him come down to 152 to fight against him. It was a pushback. Okay? So he decided, I'm fighting at my own weight. Fuck y'all. I ain't going down to 154 no more. I could make 154, but I'm not doing it. And he started fighting at what we call Canelo weight. So I think that infuriated the fans. That way they weren't getting title fights and stuff like that. Canelo had become big. He's on average grossing in at least 600 million pay-per-view, 600,000 pay-per-view buys for his fights. Now he'd become attraction. But the Miguel Cotto fight really took it to the next level. And they raked in some serious pay-per-view on the Miguel Cotto fight. And Canelo beat Miguel Cotto to become the lineal WBC middleweight champion. All right, he beat Miguel Cotto. Now, it was, again, a pick'em fight, kind of, in the sense that Cotto was getting his licks in. He was getting his shots in. Both guys were really tough. But Canelo seemed to be landing the harder shots. And I think that's why Canelo actually won that fight, because both guys were doing what they wanted to do. Canelo was looking pretty at times against Miguel Cotto. Miguel Cotto that jab was always working. You know, you get that jab to land all the time. It was a very competitive fight, but I thought Canelo, again, with the harder punches, won that fight. Now, again, Canelo was much bigger than Miguel Cotto when fight night came. He was significantly bigger, showing that Miguel Cotto really wasn't a middleweight. Now, here's the thing. There are two very important things. This fight took place at 155 pounds. That's the first thing. Canelo weight. Okay, they both agreed 155 is cool for that. Miguel Cotto is cool for Canelo. Two, and this is what a lot of people didn't like. Miguel Cotto was the lineal champion. Triple G was there in the middleweight division. And Miguel Cotto wouldn't face Triple G. And a lot of people were angry about that. And Canelo stepping into the middleweight division fighting Miguel Cotto at 155 pounds to win the title at 155 pounds, put Canelo smack dab in the position that Miguel Cotto was in. Cotto said he wasn't a middleweight. Canelo echoed that. I'm not a middleweight either. Because he fought at 155. So he was asking Triple G to come down to 157. They were trying to do negotiations for that to happen. Triple G was like, hell no, I'm not doing it for you. Canelo said, well, you know, he was doing it for Floyd, but I can't do it for me. So Triple G said, hell no. So Canelo was like, man, I ain't no middleweight. All right, he said the same thing like Miguel Cotto. And so Canelo, he instead faced Amir Khan, which is as ludicrous as it could be. But then Canelo was doing this as a result and as a reaction of Triple G facing Kell Brook. Triple G had faced Kell Brook, who came up from welterweight, okay, and dared to be great. They were claiming that Triple G wasn't getting any opponents. So Kell Brook came up from welterweight and fought Triple G. And he put on a spirited fight for 4 rounds. But truth be told, Triple G was just too big and too strong. So he knocked him out. So Canelo said, well, hell, if Triple G could go and fight a little guy, then I'm going to go fight a little guy. So Amir Khan had called out Canelo, and Canelo answered the charge. And him and Amir Khan fought. And Canelo, of course, knocked out Amir Khan. Cold. Okay? Cold. All right, cooked him. Now, here's the thing. And this is the double standards. He fought Amir Khan, by the way, at 155 pounds Canelo weight. All right, anyway. Now, he had cooked him. Now, the double standards is nobody's asking Triple G. Nobody is saying that Triple G pulled up poor Kell Brook up 2 weight classes to face him as Canelo pulled up Amir Khan. This is the whole thing. The argument is Canelo pull up Amir Khan to his weight class, which is unfair, instead of facing Triple G, who he should have fought, and Canelo better face Triple G after this. And Canelo started negotiations with Triple G again, and it didn't work out, and the WBC stripped him of the title because Canelo said, well, you can take your title. I don't care. I'm not facing Triple G next. And Canelo went and proved that he was a 154-pounder by fighting Liam Smith at 154 for the 154 WBO title, which Liam Smith had just won, the vacant title, because Demetrius Andrade, who had been calling out Canelo, as well as the Charlos, had got stripped of the WBO title. Now, the reason Demetrius Andrade got stripped of the WBO title, that's a whole other story for another day. But suffice it to say, Canelo's facing Liam Smith after Demetrius Andrade gets stripped, which is sad. Very sad, you know, because it looked like he ducked Demetrius Andrade, who was calling him out all the time. So Canelo he ducks Demetrius Andrade in the same, and this is true. He only faces Liam Smith because Demetrius Andrade is not there. He wasn't thinking of the WBO. He wasn't trying to unify with he wasn't trying to do nothing with the WBO before that. Okay? That's true. He did duck Demetrius Andrade. But the point is, he faced Liam Smith to prove that he was a 154-pounder. He fought him. He knocked him out. And then he moved up to face Julio Cesar Chavez Jr., pulling Julio Cesar Chavez Jr. down from 175 pounds to 168 pounds. I think they did a catch weight of 164 pounds, draining Julio Cesar Chavez even more. And they had this fight, and Canelo basically dominated Julio Cesar Chavez Jr. without knocking him out. Okay, Julio Cesar Chavez couldn't really put up much of a fight. He was trying to box Canelo. I think it's because he was weight drained. And so a lot of people talk about, Canelo versus Julio Cesar Chavez Jr. being a dud, that he weight drained Julio Cesar Chavez. This is where the stuff comes true. The truth be told is he beat his ass. Julio Cesar Chavez agreed to that. Shouldn't have agreed to it. Should have just fought him at 168. But the important thing is Canelo's building up strength to be able to fight a big opponent like Gennady Golovkin, because he's gearing up to face Gennady Golovkin. Canelo never intended to duck Gennady Golovkin. Never. But he needed to prepare his body to face a guy like Gennady Golovkin, and that's what he did. So by fighting a big body like Julio Cesar Chavez Jr. at a comfortable weight that Canelo could deal with, which is 164, make sure you kind of weaken him a bit. you got this fight, this kind of dud of a fight, where Canelo was dominating Julio Cesar Chavez Jr. Now, if Julio Cesar Chavez Jr. came in at 168, remember, it's a big dude who hardly ever makes weight. Julio Cesar Chavez Jr. should have been allowed to come in at 168. You would have gotten a much more spirited performance. But, you know, Canelo trying to get squeeze every single advantage out of his opponent, basically drained an exciting fight out of everybody. But the point is, he was well within his rights to do that. All right? Because he's saying, I'm coming all the way up from 154 to fight you at 168. Nah, man. I want an advantage. So he squeezed out an advantage. But I have to say, I think you'd have gotten a much more spirited performance from Julio Cesar Chavez Jr. had it been at 168. Because Chavez Jr., he hardly could make weight, man. You making this guy was up at 175. Okay? He just got stopped at 175. He had a redeeming fight, I think, and then they were trying to hook up the fight with Canelo. You can't get fireworks if one fighter isn't even halfway at his best. You know, Julio Cesar Chavez was too drained. You know, he actually successfully made weight, but you couldn't get nothing really out of him because by the time he rehydrated, he wasn't anything. He was a shell of himself. So this is why a lot of people, you know, criticize Canelo, because there's always something going on with the opponent and blah, 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 blah. But it was a fight really to prepare for the Triple G fight. And the Triple G fight, the first Triple G fight, which you see here, that first Triple G fight, Canelo, I thought, won that fight. I don't even think it was a split decision. I don't think it was a draw. I thought Canelo outboxed Triple G. Yes, he was on the back foot most of the time, but he made Triple G miss, and he would, when he was ready, make Triple G pay. And he really looked like Floyd in there. And no one can change my mind about that. So I thought he beat Triple G the first time, and the second time he just made it more obvious by beating down Triple G going forward, walking Triple G down, and beating his ass up. And so those two fights back-to-back were big fights. And this showed that Canelo wasn't ducking Triple G. He wanted to prepare himself, which made sense, for a Triple G fight. But he wasn't ducking Triple G. All right? He wasn't trying to duck no smoke. Okay? Unlike Demetrius Andrade, unlike Jermell Charlo, unlike right now what's happening with David Benavidez. All right, Canelo always showed that he wanted to smoke, and he proved it twice. He faced Triple G 3 times. He faced him twice. All right, the first time they said people still claim that Triple G won that first fight. No, it's just because Canelo was boxing him and fighting off the back foot that people say Triple G won that first fight. He didn't win that first fight. Triple G did not win that first fight. And the second fight, Canelo made it as blatantly clear as possible that he won the second fight. Right? And the third fight, Triple G was old as hell, so I didn't even want to see that fight, all right? But the point is, after he faced Triple G twice, he took an easy fight, which was against Rocky Fielding. Now, here's the thing that I want you guys to understand. At this point in the game, you just beat the pound-for-pound #1 fighter, okay? You facing Rocky Fielding. Okay, fine. You're facing Rocky, but stay busy fight. Nobody's saying anything about Canelo there, and I don't have anything to say about him there. All right, Rocky Fielding, fine. You want to stay busy? He's fighting pretty regularly, as you can see. Fine. That was his second fight for the year. Fine. He goes on, and Danny Jacobs, I remember this so vividly. I remember Danny Jacobs saying Canelo would never face him. He would duck the smoke. Nope. Canelo took on Daniel Jacobs, and he beat him. Now, Daniel Jacobs in the second half of the fight was coming on stronger. You know, he wished he had done it early on, but he said he couldn't find Canelo's rhythm early on in the fight. Danny Jacobs was at the time the IBF champion. He just beaten Derevyanchenko, okay? Danny Jacobs had fought Triple G, I think the fight before the Derevyanchenko fight. Put on a hell of a fight. Some people argue he won against Triple G, but Triple G got the nod. That's the important thing. So Daniel Jacobs had been there. Now, he had fought Triple G before Canelo fought Triple G, by the way. But anyway, the point is, Daniel Jacobs became IBF champion. No denying him. He became an authentic champion. Before that, he had been a secondary world champion, having beaten Peter Quillen. But in this case, he was the legit champion this time. IBF champion, beating Derevyanchenko. Was a hell of a fighter as well. Now, the point is, people say Canelo would duck Daniel Jacobs. Nope, went straight to the smoke. Straight to the freaking smoke. Okay? All right, let's stop right there now. I'm going to pause for a minute. I'm going to go away. I'm going to come back. All right, back on. So Canelo Alvarez, they said he would duck Danny Jacobs. Nope, went straight to the smoke. So now he was the IBF, WBC, and WBA champion. He had the three of the most important belts. All he had to do now, because he had claimed that he wanted to become undisputed, his last guy he had to face was Demetrius Andrade, the WBO champion. And Canelo looked like he's like, get me Demetrius Andrade, right? That was the orders. And somehow, some way, they ran out of time. This is in 2019. And Derevyanchenko had his turn to get the IBF title. And for some reason, Golden Boy dropped the ball on that because Canelo gave them orders and he wanted to face the WBO champion. And for some reason, Golden Boy dropped the ball and the time had run out for the IBF title. Derevyanchenko had petitioned to fight, and Canelo was stripped of the IBF title that same year, 2015. And after that, Canelo just had to face Demetrius Andrade to get the WBO title. And instead, he chased after Sergey Kovalev. He changed gears, and he wasn't going after Demetrius Andrade. So I thought he was going to face Demetrius Andrade and become undisputed. And even if he didn't have the IBF title, still go off to Demetrius Andrade and say, I had all 4 titles in that division. And because of the stupidness of the IBF and the stupidness of my company, Golden Boy, at the time, I think this caused a rift between Canelo and Golden Boy because he felt like he was getting fucked up because his whole goal was to become undisputed at 160. And Golden Boy kind of messed him up. And so he did not face Demetrius Andrade. This is the second time he did not face Demetrius Andrade. And Demetrius Andrade was in a key position. They were both on the zone. You know, this was the moment. You know, Demetrius Andrade was with Matchroom. And it just didn't work out. It didn't work out as Canelo went chasing after Sergey Kovalev 2 divisions up, 175 pounds. Sergey Kovalev just come out of an extremely difficult fight against Anthony Yard. Had to go straight back into a fight with Canelo. Sergey Kovalev, you could see he didn't have much in him, but he was boxing his ass off. I tell you, he was boxing really well. I thought this fight was going to be a dud. It turned out to be quite a competitive fight in which Kovalev was really keeping Canelo at bay for a good period of time, almost 10, into the 11th round. Canelo really stopped Kovalev. But I got to say, Kovalev boxed his ass off. And after that, I had a newfound respect for Kovalev because he showed me he could box. And really, really, really well. I didn't expect the fight to last that long. Because I knew he was not weight drained, but I knew he was going into fights too quickly. And he had been in a grueling fight. His body hadn't gotten a chance to regenerate. I thought this was a fight in which Kovalev was going to be a sitting duck. The body punching and so on would just take him out. His style was just tailor-made for Canelo. Turned out that he was actually boxing much better than I thought. And Canelo couldn't land those body shots like he wanted to. He was frustrated. He kept the course. Kovalev started to fade. I can remember Kovalev flooring in the 10th round against Canelo. He was really trying to press the action to see if he could get Canelo out of there because he was running out of gas. And Canelo really handed it to him. As he slowed down, Canelo took advantage of it and got him out of there. But, Kovalev actually let me realize that this was actually a better fight than I thought it would be. And so I give Canelo credit for beating Sergey Kovalev, but I do not give him credit for avoiding Demetrius Andrade. And I know that sounds terrible, and I'm not saying that he necessarily ducked Demetrius Andrade, because Sergey Kovalev is obviously a bigger guy and has a greater resume and everything. But this was his second opportunity to face Demetrius Andrade, and he dropped the ball on it. He really dropped the ball on it, And yes, you got the more decorated guy, and you'll go down your history that you beat Sergey Kovalev, probably a Hall of Famer. I think Kovalev is actually going to be a world champion at cruiserweight very soon. But it's just, it's one of those things where you watch it and you're like, because I thought this was I'm going to be honest with y'all, I thought it was a shit fight, that Canelo was going to be facing Kovalev. It turned out to be actually a much more technical and much more exciting fight than I thought it would be. Kovalev didn't really tee off on Canelo, and I get why. Canelo was just so quick. He wasn't really trying to put some power behind it. I think he put some power behind it in the 10th round, but he didn't really catch Canelo clean with anything, because Canelo's got really good underrated defense. But this was the first time I saw Canelo kind of start to shift and duck people, like blatantly duck people and make excuses for it. And then he started saying how Demetrius Andrade in the Callum Smith fight, I think it was, how, he's an ugly fighter or some shit like that. And that was just straight out ducking talk. And then in the Avni Yildirim fight, in which Avni Yildirim didn't deserve that fight at all, and the fight ended up being a dud on top of that, he kept on saying how, Demetrius Andrade, he's a horrible fighter. And once he started saying that language told me, duck goose. Okay, this dude is ducking, and he's ducking hard. Okay? And that language immediately told me he was a duck. And he was ducking Demetrius Andrade. It was poor taste. Better he didn't say nothing. Then he opened his mouth and said that. And this is the first time I really started seeing Canelo, trying to avoid certain fighters. And it's just not cool, right? The Callum Smith fight, and then the Avni Yildirim fight, and then the Billy Joe Saunders fight. He kept on talking that kind of language. And it was sad to see. It was really sad. He broke Billy Joe Saunders' eye orbital, by the way, in that fight. He stopped Billy Joe Saunders. The fight with Caleb Plant, Caleb Plant thought that Canelo was ducking everybody, and he said it. He literally told Canelo to his face, you're a duck. You didn't really want to face me and all of this other stuff. He started putting it on Canelo Alvarez. Talking about avoiding Andrade and everything. Caleb Plant let him have it. You know what I'm saying? And Caleb Plant wasn't backing down. It's just that Caleb Plant in that fight, which I thought Caleb Plant was winning, actually. I just thought that, he didn't know what to do once he got hurt. He got hurt, and he went down, and he tried to take a knee, but he got up too quick. He should have stayed there, tried to gather his composure, and then tried to ride through the storm. And his equilibrium was off, and Canelo finished him. And he actually performed much better against David Benavidez, who I think David Benavidez could discombobulate you with the kind of punishment that he could give you. And I thought Caleb Plant fought even better against David. And I think the experience, if Caleb Plant was to face Canelo again, I think he'd do much better. And he definitely wouldn't be stopped by Canelo. But of course, Canelo's kind of slowing down. Canelo's kind of fading now. He's kind of in the twilight of his career. But nonetheless, Caleb Plant showed us how difficult a style like his could be against Canelo. Canelo was frustrated until the 11th round. He hit Caleb Plant with a really nice body shot at the end of the 10th, though. Canelo would go up to 175 pounds again. Now, all this time, there's demands for Canelo to face David Benavidez. This is in the year 2021. David Benavidez has come on the scene a number of times. Canelo has faced, I believe he faced Callum Smith, and at that time, David Benavidez had been stripped of the WBC title for coming in overweight. David Benavidez had people say he had his chance to face Canelo. Canelo wasn't going to go mess with the WBC if Caleb Plant was there. If David Benavidez was there. Let's not kid ourselves, okay? Just like how when Demetrius Andrade was there at 152, 154 for the WBO title, Canelo wasn't interested in that title, okay? Now, here's what happened. After that time, which was 2020, until, the present time, instead of Canelo facing David Benavidez after Caleb Plant, which was the only guy remaining to face, he instead went up 2 divisions to face Dimitri Bivol. Now, to be fair, Dimitri Bivol was at the time seen by DAZN and somewhat globally as the best 175-pounder in the division. So even if Canelo was ducking David Benavidez, he was facing the best 175-pounder, at least universally, that's what people believed. Even though Artur Beterbiev was knocking out people left, right, and center, he was not considered the best 175-pounder. It was Dimitri Bivol. So Canelo jumped up to face Dimitri Bivol, thinking he could beat him, and he realized pretty quickly that Dimitri Bivol was on a whole other level of boxing, right? And Dimitri Bivol comprehensively beat his ass. They had it closer than it really should be. Dimitri Bivol basically whitewashed him. I mean, beat him every single round. Nobody had beaten Canelo like that since Floyd Mayweather. And Bivol just basically totally dismantled him. Now, Canelo's defense was on point, so even though Bivol was beating his ass up, he wasn't really landing a whole set of body and head shots because Canelo can pick off shots. And it just showed you the level that Canelo was at. Instead of coming back down and facing David Benavidez, which is a tough fight, he had his third fight with Gennady Golovkin. It was all right. You know what I mean? Nah, it wasn't good at all. It was terrible because Gennady Golovkin wasn't the same, and Canelo couldn't put him away, right? So it is what it is. They fought for Canelo's undisputed title. Gennady Golovkin coming up and fighting. Again, he did have a tough fight with Dimitri Bivol. He wanted to rematch with Dimitri Bivol, so he claimed. I don't think he wanted to see that smoke ever again. But nonetheless, the Gennady Golovkin fight was the third. He had with Gennady Golovkin, which at this time Canelo was the bigger guy. He was in the higher weight class. He had all the advantages, and he didn't do great at all. It was a dud. Then the John Ryder fight John Ryder's a tough dude. He was a credible guy, but why not David Benavidez? I'm just gonna say it. Why wasn't he facing David Benavidez? To everybody at this point in time, it's like, why is he not facing David Benavidez? You know what I'm saying? What's up with Canelo? Why is he not facing David Benavidez? So this was the kind of thing that was going on. You know what I mean? And then he just recently faced Jermell Charlo. Now after so many years, you're looking to face the guy because you're 2 weight classes bigger than him and all of that. You know what I mean? Now Jermell jumped in for Jamal. Jamal didn't want to face Canelo because Jamal is a coward. Okay, he's a coward. He's never going to face Canelo. He never wants to face Canelo. He's afraid of that smoke. Mel went up and did his thing, and credit to Mel. I gotta give Mel all the credit in the world. He had his fight with Canelo, and he's not retired. He's not even thinking about boxing. He made that Canelo money, and he's good to go. I don't think we'll see Mel back in the ring ever again. As to Mal, I don't know what's going on with Mal. He's a mess. So anyway, that's where we last left off. And what I'm trying to say is the ducking really started to begin with the Callum Smith fight, with the Sergey Kovalev, where Canelo wasn't going to the smoke anymore. We haven't seen him really go to the smoke. The guy that everybody wanted him to face is David Benavidez. And since 2020, which is about 4 years now, he hasn't gone to that smoke. And I don't think he ever will. I think there's certain fighters that Canelo ain't trying to mess with. He ain't going to try and mess with Bivol anymore. Even though he's saying he wants that rematch, he's not going to mess with Bivol. He's not going to mess with David Benavidez. Even with Demetrius Andrade right now, who's a contemporary of his, having lost to David Benavidez, I still don't think he wants that smoke with Demetrius Andrade. I don't think so. So the honest truth is Canelo's career, for the most part, he been going to the smoke. He been brought along pretty nicely, but he been going to the smoke. I think most of his fights he actually won, in my opinion, if you keep it 100. He definitely beat Triple G's ass, and a lot of people was Triple G fans, so they hate him for that. But I've been predicting a long time he would beat Triple G. Now, when it comes to David Benavidez, I want to say this. So, Goodfella Sports TV talking about this is the way how Canelo is and blah, 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 blah. That's not how Canelo is. All right? With certain fighters, Canelo's like that. Demetrius Andrade, he was like that with Jamel Charlo. That's why he bring him up. Why Jamel Charlo had to go up 2 divisions to face Canelo. You know, but nobody thought Jamel was going to face him anyway. I thought Mel would beat him. But, man, Mel felt that power, and he was like, nah. Not only that, Canelo was out muscling him. Like, Mel's usually strong, and Mel is a very strong guy. Canelo just strong, like an ox. Mel felt his strength and felt his power and was like, I ain't messing with that. So it is what it is. Mel also kind of was avoiding Tim Tszyu. I didn't believe he was avoiding Tim Tszyu. I thought Mel was, but he avoiding Tim Tszyu, y'all. He avoiding Tim Tszyu. He not trying to mess with Tim Tszyu right now. So he must know something we don't know. Or his confidence must be down. I don't know what it is with Mel, but Mel ain't ready for Tim Tszyu. I'm telling you that right now. Which, I had confidence in Mel, but now Mel, I don't know what's happening with Mel. Maul ain't want nothing but to do with Canelo. Maul gonna get messed up if he fight Canelo. He's not mentally there. And so the only guy left standing, because Canelo ain't gonna face Andrade. He's not gonna face Andrade. That's the only other guy left for Canelo to actually challenge himself with. It's Andrade and David Benavidez. I will not include David Morrell because David Morrell's of another generation. You know what I mean? And I wouldn't want to see Canelo face David Morrell before David Benavidez. Even though David Morrell would probably be a even tougher challenge than David Benavidez skill-wise. David Benavidez don't want nothing to do with David Morrell. So that should tell you everything you need to know about David Morrell's reputation. But nonetheless, I'm not saying that these guys are scared to fight each other. I think their careers and their paydays, is what they're afraid of. But actually, if they actually go to the smoke, like if Canelo goes to the smoke, actually be respected more. If you face David Benavidez, Canelo, you be respected more for going to the smoke than taking some easy guy like, Jaime Munguia, which is easy work. It's easy work. Jaime Munguia don't got that defense. He's an offensive-minded fighter. He's not a defensive-minded fighter. And you know what you did to offensive-minded fighters. You know what you do to them. So Canelo's taking the easy route. Now, I was just on King Troy's on Troy Killertainment's channel, and he timed me out or whatever. I was being very respectful, and I tell him respectfully I disagree with you. He was trying to say that there's no limit, no cap to Canelo facing David Benavidez, and I say, well, first of all, you asking for money for a fight that ain't gonna generate that kind of money. It just won't. And he was trying to say that, the fight is, the biggest fight ever in the sport of boxing and blah, 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 blah. And I was like, nah, homie. No, homie. Ain't nobody saying it's the biggest fight in all of boxing's history. Even if it is, it's not Canelo alone making that fight. So it's David Benavidez. So he should get a sizable portion of that as well. You can't be lowballing David Benavidez and Canelo getting all that money. Besides that fight needs to make over 2 million pay-per-view buys, which I don't see that fight at this point because David Benavidez is not on the level of Canelo in terms of money and currency and stuff that he gets. I don't see that fight making that kind of money. You know what I'm saying? Canelo want that Mayweather money, but you can't get that Mayweather money with a guy that's not on your level. And he was saying, well, because David Benavidez is not Canelo level, then he shouldn't fight Canelo. I'm like, well, Javier Munguia is not on Canelo's level. Danny Jacobs never been on Canelo's level. Rocky Fielding wasn't on Canelo's level. Julio Cesar Chavez Jr. ain't on Canelo. Liam Smith, Amir Khan, James Kirkland, Erislandy Lara, Alfredo Angulo, they all weren't on Canelo's level, homie. You know what I'm saying? So, you didn't let me respond. You just wanted to hear yourself. And I respect you, but respectfully, you capping for this dude. You seriously capping for this dude. You capping for ducking. Clarissa Shields came out and said that's a duck. Raleigh Romero said it was a duck. Devin Haney said that's a duck. Tim Tszyu said it's a duck. These are great boxers. Okay, I'm not a boxer. So why are you capping for the dude? All right, he's talking about there's no upper limit. Yes, there's an upper limit, buddy. Okay, if you're calling for $150 million and the fight can't even make that kind of money, the fight's not going to make that kind of money because, again, David Benavidez is not on that level. If Canelo on a fighter somewhat near his level, like a Triple G, like a Floyd Mayweather, like a Miga Cotto come together, yeah, he could call for some of those numbers because those fighters are on that level. And just because a fighter's not on your level commercially doesn't mean you can't face that fighter. So, I didn't understand where he was coming from, and nobody can, apparently nobody can speak a different opinion to him with logic and respect, which is disappointing, Troy Killer Tatum, because I fucks with you. But you right now, you're not reasoning with me. You're not talking with me. We can't have a conversation, a discussion. We're not trying to debate here. We're just having a discussion, my friend. Just a discussion. Okay? So if you are saying that Canelo's not ducking him, you got to explain that to me, because Canelo did duck Demetrius Andrade. Canelo did duck Jermell Charlo. These are not if, buts, or maybes. He called Demetrius Andrade a horrible fighter. He said, who did Demetrius Andrade beat? These are not substantial reasons for you not to fight a fighter who's a two-time world champion. Because you set precedent. You fought fighters who beat nobody. You're fighting a fighter who beat nobody in preference to a fighter who's actually beat people, beat champions, who earned his shot and should be mandatory to you. But in the same vein, it is also not true that Canelo is a fake champion and his career has been always this way. He always ducking the smoke. He's always ducking, the very best. That's not true. That's not true at all. Okay? Up to recently, he faced Dimitri Bivol. He lost. Bivol is, in my opinion, the best 175-pounder in the 175-pound division, not Artur Beterbiev. In my opinion. I predicted that Bivol would beat Canelo. Okay? Now, having said that, and I like Dimitri Bivol, I like Canelo, I like these fighters. It's not, I don't have no hate in my heart. The only fighter I tell you I have hate in my heart is the overhyped guy, Triple G. Triple G's overhyped. I didn't like him because they hyped him up as something he wasn't. Okay? I never saw David Benavidez as a Mexican monster. I never thought of him like that. But he does throw a lot of punches. Not only that, he places his punches well. He keeps distance pretty well. He uses a very proper jab. He's big, he's strong, and he's showing, because I never thought he would beat Demetrius Andrade. He proved me wrong. I had Caleb Plant beating him. He proved me wrong with that too. Okay? So, say what you want about David Benavidez. Canelo knows. Canelo knows what David Benavidez brings to the table. People say, oh, Canelo wants to fight him, but Canelo don't want to fight him. And it's not his team. It's Canelo. Canelo don't believe. He don't believe like that. That's why he's avoiding him. And it don't matter what King Troy says. I know he's a huge Canelo fan and he studies Canelo. And it's not just about technique. Let me explain something to King Troy. I don't know if he'll ever see this video, but whatever. And this is just boxing. You could have the best technique in the world. You could be well-schooled boxer, more well-schooled a boxer than other boxer who's not as technically sound. But the hunger of that boxer, who's not as technically sound, the youth of that boxer, the strength, the size of that boxer, overcomes your technique and skill. And you could be counterpunching that boxer and he's walking through your punches. And he's hunting you down, he's pressuring you, and he's putting his skills and what he knows with his game plan to the test. And he can beat you. And Canelo, being the old veteran that has lost a step or two, he obviously has. He's had a lot of fights. Okay? His body, wear and tear on the body started to break down. He's going to have to use every single little trick in the book he has against David Benavidez. I'm not saying that Canelo's not more skilled than David Benavidez. He obviously is. He's more skilled than David. But that gap, like I said before, that gap between Canelo and David Benavidez is getting smaller and smaller. And David Benavidez, if he's triumphant against Alexander Gvozdek, and a lot of y'all ruling out Alexander Gvozdek, but my boy Lionel Thompson, aka Lonnie B, said Lionel punched like a mule. He punched hard. Okay? And he can move, and he's got good boxing skills, etc. And he predicted, he thinks Gvozdek will beat David Benavidez. Now, of course, I've heard many different people's opinions on this. You know, David putting pressure on the European boxer, closing the distance. That pressure might cause Gvozdek to cave, blah, 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 blah. I heard all of that. I think it was Teddy Atlas was saying that. But me personally, I think that if David Benavidez beats Gvozdek, he now has dealt with 175-pound power and strength in that ring. Gvozdek is not known as a guy who imposes his physical strength on a fighter. More boxes. And I think David is a guy who's pretty clean himself. He more boxes, but he could impose his physical strength if he needs to on Gvozdek in the clinches and stuff like that. Roughing him up in the clinches and throwing those short chopping shots on the inside. And the mid-range shots, because David likes to fight more at mid-range than he does really from distance. But the truth be told, it only makes David better. And if he gets the possibility of fighting the winner of Artur Beterbiev versus Dimitri Bivol, I think Bivol's going to win that fight. That sets him up to become a world champion at 175 if Canelo does not oblige him to face him. You see? And that's a hell of a fight, David versus Dimitri Bivol. That's a hell of a fight at 175, you know. And I would love to see what Bivol can do in a fight like that, because that's an actual definite challenger. If he manages to beat, if Bivol beats Artur Beterbiev and David Benavidez beats Alexander Gvozdek, my personal opinion is that matchup between Bivol and David Benavidez would be a hell of a matchup. Now, of course, Benavidez still would need at least one or two more fights before I have him beaten Bivol, because I don't see him beating Bivol like that. Bivol is a guy, you know, those 1-2s and those 1-2-3s, you know, Bivol's real good at doing that with his footwork and everything. So I don't know. But what I could say is that, you know, it will be an exciting fight, because all David Benavidez fights are exciting, you know. So basically what I'm saying is, guys like Troy Killertainment, who will tell you, you know, Canelo's not afraid to face Bivol. You know, why can't he not have 200 million, 150 million? He's not pricing himself out. You know, he would say things like, you know, Canelo's skill set and what he brings to the table, you know, what Benavidez brings to the table. He sees Canelo beating Benavidez easy and stuff like that. He would argue those things. But me personally, I say you first have to have the confidence. If you're facing a whole bunch of fighters and you're getting 30 million, 40 million, maybe even 50 million to face those fighters, right? Why is it that when it comes to this fighter, who basically gets paid the same amount as those other fighters. You got to triple and quadruple the amount of money you want to face this particular fighter. Why is it that you want so much money to face this particular fighter? What makes him so different to the other fighters out there? Right? That's the question. Why are you asking for so much money? You're outpricing yourself. You're obviously outpricing yourself because the money needed to generate that kind of money to pay you, where are you going to get it from? The guy who you're facing is just like the other fighters you're facing. His cost, his price, what he's been paid in his career so far has never been higher than those other fighters you face. The Caleb Plants, the Billy Joe Saunders of your career. So why is it now you're asking for these exorbitant fees for this particular fighter? Why would you want that? What makes this fighter so different? And that's where we know he's ducking. When he got to ask for 3, 4, 5 times the value of what he would normally get. Whereas the fighter's not getting paid that. The fighter who's supposedly bringing this exciting fight, he's not going to get paid that. Right? Because in the negotiations, they are willing to have a guarantee of 60 million, 55 million for you, 5 million for him, and you get all of the pay-per-view. Right? So you're getting paid 1.5 to 2 times what you would normally get paid. And you get all the pay-per-view. Right? For this fight. And he didn't want that. He's ducking. That's the epitome of a duck. And everybody in boxing can see it. It's plain as day. Canelo is ducking David Benavidez. That's a fight he's unwilling to just, he's not going to go to that smoke. That smoke's a little too much for him at this point in his career. And that's not Canelo we know. The Canelo we know goes to the smoke up to the Danny Jacobs fight. After the Danny Jacobs fight, he's not been going to the smoke like that. The only time he went to the smoke was with Bivol. And that was because he thought he could beat Bivol. He really thought so. Right? Because he had faced a guy like Caleb Plant and he had prevailed. He thought he could do the same with Bivol. After he lost to Bivol, he ain't trying again. He ain't trying to go to no smoke. He done with that. He ain't trying. He has fought now, what is it, 3? Since Bivol, he's fought 2 fights, is it? Let's see, it's the Ryder fight. No, 3 fights. He fought old ass Triple G. Then he fought John Ryder. And now he's fighting, and then he fought Jamel Charlo. Right? He's had 3 fights since then. He ain't been trying to go to no smoke. He ain't trying to get no David Benavidez. He talked about he wanted a rematch with Bivol, but he never followed up with it. And Bivol has moved on. Okay? Bivol has moved on. Bivol even offered to fight Canelo at 168. He ain't trying to get that smoke. He ain't trying to get that smoke. Canelo's not trying to get no smoke like that. He done with the smoke. The likelihood of Canelo facing David Benavidez is quite slim, ladies and gentlemen. I know people saying the door is open for him to face, and Troy Killer Tatum would probably be thinking, oh, yeah. That door's closed, man. Canelo done with the smoke, okay? His last go at the smoke was with Bivol. And he thought he was going to be able to handle Bivol, and he got beat down. He ain't trying to get no smoke, ladies and gentlemen. The days of Canelo and smoke are over. All right? He ain't trying to get that Benavidez fight. And Jose Benavidez is right. He ain't trying to get that smoke with David Benavidez. David Benavidez brings a lot to the table. He can overwhelm you with punches. He could take a punch. And his defense is getting better and better and better. And he's a big boy, so he can absorb those punches. So Canelo ain't trying to get that. He not trying to go at that smoke. He ain't trying to get that smoke. He's not trying to get that smoke. Right? That's the truth. And Canelo is wear and tear, and Canelo has happened. Now, Javier Munguia, Canelo got that defense I don't see nobody knocking out Canelo in his entire career. I do see Canelo losing. Right? Canelo's not going to get knocked out by Jaime Munguia. I don't think so, at least. Anything can happen in boxing. I see Canelo knocking out Jaime Munguia because Jaime Munguia's defense is holy. He gets hit with shots. And he can take a good shot, no doubt about it. But he can't take a shot like David Benavidez can or David Morrell. They are big, massive 168 pounders, right? So they will be able to absorb shots better than smaller. But I seen David Benavidez get put on his ass with Ronald Gavril, and I think another fighter put him on his ass. All right? So can Canelo knock down David Benavidez? Absolutely. With a counterpunch? Absolutely. All right? Can he back him up? Absolutely. Right? But because David Benavidez is so young, because David Benavidez is so hungry, because David Benavidez really wants this fight with Canelo, he's like a shark. He's like a young lion coming after the big lion. And Canelo has to fend him off. David Benavidez is not enthusiastic about going after David Morrell, however. He acknowledges David Morrell is a good fighter because David Morrell brings something else to the table. And he got the size. All right? And he's southpaw. So that's a harder fight for David Benavidez. Right? But with respect to like guys like Canelo, he would take it because Canelo's slowing down. So Canelo's getting older. Got a lot of veteran moves to teach David Benavidez. He got a lot to teach David Benavidez, but he feels he can overwhelm Canelo. He thinks he can break Canelo down as we come down the stretch. He ain't gonna get him out of there. But he could win a fight in the latter half of the fight against Canelo because Canelo has also stamina problems and consistency problems. You know? So this is where David Benavidez thinks he can get it on Canelo. He thinks he gonna have a better gas tank. He younger, he fresher. So that's how he thinks he's gonna beat Canelo Alvarez, with youth and freshness. And Canelo kind of knows that, because that's been Canelo's fundamental flaw. Right? So when it comes to Canelo Alvarez versus David Benavidez, Canelo is ducking David Benavidez. It's blatant. It's as obvious as it gets. You know, and those people who want to defend that, you're defending ducking. And you're not helping the sport of boxing. You're not helping it. All right? That's a hindrance to the sport of boxing. Now, Canelo has his opponent, which is Jaime Munguia. And I'm sure that fight will make some kind of money because it's two Mexicans. So it'll make some money. But I got to say, Canelo ain't the Canelo of old. Canelo of old would have taken the David Benavidez fight when everybody think he wouldn't face him. That's when he would face him. He'd face him, but now he's making excuses, and we know he's not going to face. I'm telling you, he's not going to face David Benavidez. A lot of people feel he will. I don't think so. I think he's done with the smoke. He's done trying to prove himself. He's done going to the smoke. But he has, throughout his career, gone to the smoke when people said he wouldn't go to the smoke. He went to Gennady Golovkin. He went to Austin Trout. He went to Erislandy Lara. He went to Floyd Mayweather. He went to the smoke. Danny Jacobs. He went to Danny Jacobs. And a lot of people didn't think he would go to the smoke, and he went to the smoke. So he has gone to the smoke many times in his career. Yes, he never really faced Jermell Charlo when he should have faced Jermell Charlo, but he did face him. And I thought Jermell would have beaten him, and he didn't beat him. All right, he went to the smoke, if you want to call it that, against Jermell Charlo. Again, Jermell Charlo had some disadvantages, but, you know, he went to the smoke too. But Mel Charlo ain't trying to get no more smoke. He ain't trying to get the smoke. He trying to get paid now. He ain't trying to get the smoke. He want nothing to do with Tim Tszyu. He talk as much as he's talking. He don't want nothing to do with Tim Tszyu. Got comfortable because that Canelo money. You know, smoke not that important anymore. Right? Terrence Crawford. He ain't trying it right now. It is what it is. You know, he's trying to go for the money right now. Crawford's trying to go for the money. He's trying to get paid. Not really interested in what's his name? Um, I forgot what the kid's name is right now. At 147, he ain't really trying to get Boots, Jerome Boots in this. He ain't want nothing to do with Boots right now. Oh hell no. He trying to get paid, right? Canelo been always getting paid. Canelo ain't interested in no tough fight. He ain't trying to get no David Benavidez. Charlo ain't trying to get no Tim Tszyu fight. He's trying to get paid. They old. They know their days are numbered in the game, and now they just trying to get paid. Okay, but that's why you hear Terrence Crawford saying he want the Canelo fight because he know he could get paid. That's a fight where he gets paid. They trying to get paid, ladies and gentlemen. As far as them concerned, their career is almost over. They trying to get out the game with as much money as possible. That's why Canelo say, all right, 150 to 200 million to face David Benavidez, because Canelo's basically telling you, I'm trying to get paid right now and get out the game. Right? I'm trying to get paid. I'm hustling. I'm trying to get my hustle on. I'm trying to steal some of this money. Right? Gervonta Tank Davis is on the money. He trying to get paid. Okay? Tank, even if he's not even in his full prime, he ain't even, and he trying to get paid. Everybody trying to snatch some money. That's what they trying to do. Tyson Fury trying to get money grab. Right? He fights Usyk, he don't care. If Usyk beat him, so be it. But he trying to get paid. Tyson Fury ain't gonna fight it. If Usyk whoops his ass, that's it. Tyson Fury gonna ride off into the sunset with the money he got. He ain't trying to them guys trying to get paid. Okay? That's just what it is. It is what it is. That's what boxing has come to. It's not about necessarily facing the best. You got all this money lying around. I'm sure if Sugar Ray Leonard was around at this time with all that money lying, Ninja, he trying to get paid. Okay? I've never seen $150 million. Okay? Floyd Mayweather has seen it. Manny Pacquiao has seen it. There's a handful of people who've been seen it. Tyson Fury's seen $100 million in one fight. He's seen that. Oh, no. He been in a contract with $100 million. Sorry, my bad. Canelo's been in a contract with $100 million. Canelo's never seen it. Very few boxers have seen $100 million, ladies and gentlemen. Paid for one fight. Only Floyd, Mayweather, and Manny Pacquiao have seen that kind of money. Nobody else in the sport of boxing has seen that in one fight. Nobody else. Not Conor McGregor. Not nobody. So when Canelo started calling that kind of money, he knowing he don't got a dance partner to make that kind of money. He don't have a dance partner to make that kind of money. But he been in the sport for a very long time. So, and he has paid his dues in the sport. Nobody's saying no. But he don't got a dance partner. The only way is he got to blow people's minds. The dance partner that might be able to get him that kind of money is Terrence Crawford. The problem with Terrence Crawford is his ass is too small. He too small. So for Terrence Crawford to make us convinced of that, he has to go up to 168 and beat somebody at 168. That's what he has to do. And he does that, he'll convince us all. Oh yeah, we got a mega fight on our hands. So Canelo got to pray. He got to pray that Terrence Crawford would keep his word, go up to 168, fight somebody and beat them. You know, show that, hey, I belong at 168. Now, give me that fight with Canelo. That's what has to happen, and that's unlikely. Terrence Crawford is eyeing Costa Tszyu right now. The winner of Costa Tszyu and Sebastian Fonfora. You know, and maybe he can make a mega fight with that. You know, a rematch with Errol Spence Jr. would make some money, but we talking $100 million fight where Canelo's making $150 million. That's too high, y'all. That's too high. And even Saudi Arabia can't put forward those kinds of numbers. Tyson Fury's never made $100 million in one fight. And the Saudis put up good money, but it's a little too far-fetched right there. You know. So Canelo's asking for money he's never seen. Money that only two fighters in the history of boxing have seen. Floyd Mayweather and Manny Pacquiao. Those numbers are too high. That's why we say he's outpricing himself. For a David Benavidez fight, David Benavidez doesn't have that kind of legacy to get that kind of money. You got to have that legacy to get that kind of money. Canelo got that legacy to earn that kind of money. The problem is he ain't got no dance partner. The only other dance partner I can think of that around his weight class that could do something like that is Terrence Crawford. The problem is Terrence Crawford hasn't done it at that weight class. Terrence Crawford has the cachet to be that dance partner. He just has to prove himself at that weight class. You got to be somebody in that weight class that people think, oh yeah, this dude is it. Now help him acclimatize to the weight class as well as show he's levels above that opponent. And then definitely that fight will be sold as a fight that could happen. You know, so that's the problem. Benavidez is the dude to make a fight like that, but it's not right now. Not right now. You know, and that's what Canelo's seeing. He's seeing cha-ching! He's seeing money. You know, he's seen those dollar bills. But David beating Gvozdyk is good, but it's not compelling enough. You know, David beating Bivol changes everything. Let's say Bivol beats Artur Beterbiev, and then David fights Bivol and beats Bivol at 175 pounds. Now he's undisputed 175-pound champion. Yeah, that definitely sets up that fight. Now Canelo could start calling for some money because he's undefeated. He beat the 175-pounder. It's undisputed, and they want to clash at 168. Canelo's undisputed at 168. Yeah, that's a big fight. And Canelo, if he wants to, he could, they can make that a catch weight, or Canelo could go all the way up to 175 and fight for David Benavidez' title, or David Benavidez could come down to 168 and fight, putting his title on the line against Canelo. Yeah, that definitely would be a hell of a fight. Hell of a fight. You know, and let's say Terrence Crawford somewhere in that 168-pound division at the same time lurking, woo! You're talking about money now. Now you're talking about money. So, I mean, is the David Benavidez versus Canelo fight too early, too premature at this point in time? Probably. For what Canelo's asking for, if he's asking for like $150 million to face David Benavidez, Canelo must be saying, we need to see this. This thing need to build. We need to build David Benavidez as a fighter. Build him some more before I could fight him. So David Benavidez is going up to 175 pounds. And if he makes noise at 175, because somebody's going to be undisputed at the end of this clash between Beterbiev and Bivol. Somebody's going to be undisputed. Whoever that is, if David Benavidez can fight that guy and become undisputed, now we have something. That's the truth. But do I think that Canelo is ducking David Benavidez? Absolutely. I think he's ducking him. I think he's ducking him right now. Unfortunately, Canelo is looking for money. He's looking for the big fights. And I can't fault him. And right now, the guy that might be the guy to give him the big fight is Terrence Crawford, but Terrence Crawford still gotta jump up. He gotta jump up to 168 and do something. He gotta do something at 168. He gotta do something at 168. Something. Anything. Something. To show he belonged there. And then, so that's why I said it's not the most realistic thing in the world for Crawford to face Canelo. As much as people think, that's a fight. And a lot of boxers believe Crawford would beat Canelo and stuff like that. That's all cool. That's all hypothetical. You know what I mean? It's hypothetical. You gotta show. For me, that's way too much weight to put on in a short space of time. I don't see it. I don't care what anybody says. I just don't see it. And they'll tell me about sparring heavyweights and stuff. Sparring's not you put on 10-ounce gloves and you're fighting. It's different. So, Crawford going up to 100 and the levels to the sport of boxing. Canelo's not one of those guys. He's not just any 168 pounder. He's not just any heavyweight. He's not just any cruiserweight. You understand what I'm saying? This guy is different. So for Crawford to go up to 168, be able to withstand the strength and power of Canelo. I know he does wrestling and all of that. I know that, but he's still a little guy. This is not some average person on the side of the road. This is Canelo Alvarez we're talking about. And y'all can talk your junk and y'all can talk your shit, but it's different. It's just different. Canelo Alvarez is not just some ordinary guy on the side of the road. So I don't care what, these coaches and these people in boxing say. I couldn't give a fuck. I know boxing enough to understand there are weight classes for a reason. And Crawford can't just jump up to 168, take on, I know this. I don't care what anybody says. That's too much weight. I don't care what anybody says. Okay? You're talking about the same thing that makes Canelo wary of David Benavidez, the weight. Terrence Crawford would have to put on 47 to 168. That's what? 147 to 168, right? 147, I'm going to say this out loud. 147 to 168 pounds. Okay? That is 21 pounds he has to put on to get just to the limit of the weight class. This is fighting weight we're talking about. So Canelo has an advantage of 21 pounds from the jump, at least, over Terrence Crawford. Now, I know they weigh around about the same. Canelo's like, maybe he walks around 180 something. Terrence Crawford probably walks around 180 something. But we're talking fighting weight now. Fighting weight. Fighting weight. This is different. Put on 10-ounce gloves. And you have one guy who's fought 175 pounders. This is guys that walk around 190 something, almost cruiserweight, right? They walk around close to 200 pounds. You're talking about some of those guys. Canelo's been in the ring with two of them, okay? Taking punishment from two of them, okay? Crawford has never put on 10-ounce gloves and get in the ring with guys who walk around 200, 190 at the top level of boxing. Who are world champions. You go in the ring with those guys and take punishment from them in 10-ounce gloves. It's never happened. It's totally different. That's a totally different story. We're not talking sparring with 16-ounce gloves or 12-ounce gloves or whatever. We're not talking sparring. We're not talking about dishing out punishment to those guys. We're talking about taking and dishing punishment to somebody in an actual ring with 10-ounce gloves. It's different. Okay? Canelo's been in there with punches. Okay? What Crawford will bring to the table ain't gonna knock out Canelo. Because Canelo, he's not that big. Okay, he's not that big. And I'm not saying a punch is a punch is a puncher, yeah, and you need just a certain amount of pounds of pressure, but come on now. Crawford can't, Canelo's a defensive fighter. Crawford ain't knocking out Canelo. Okay, Floyd couldn't knock out Canelo. Crawford ain't knocking out Canelo. Okay? Just not happening. So anybody saying that, they out of their fucking mind to start with. Okay? Now, if he goes up to 168, acclimatizes to 168, deals with maybe one of the elite 168 pounders, it's totally different. Crawford, listen, Crawford was talking about facing Canelo at 160. 160. He wasn't talking about going up to 168. Got weakened Canelo. Canelo got to be weakened. And Crawford and Canelo is not doing that. He's not coming down to 160. Okay? The effective strength, power, and weight and mass that Canelo has is equivalent to a 175 pounder. Because he's fought 175 pounders. And he's been competitive with 175 pounders. So you're not dealing with a 168 pounder, really. You're dealing with a 175 pounder who's fighting at 168. You understand? And it's a totally different picture. That's totally different. You know, Crawford might have been effective at welterweight, but as he goes up, he's not going to be as effective because the guys that hit, they hit just as hard as him. They're just as strong as him. It's just different. It's different weight classes. Right? So he's going to 154. He's going to challenge himself against Costa Tszyu. Costa Tszyu's big, strong 154 pounder. Big, strong 154 pounder. You understand? That's a challenge in and of itself. Now you're talking about going up to 160, 168, 175. That's the guy you're actually dealing with. It's like a guy who has fought at 175, come down to 168, and is fighting. That's what you're dealing with. No way in hell. If Crawford goes up to 168 tomorrow and fights Canelo Alvarez, I'm not saying he won't give him some challenges, but have you seen Triple G versus Kell Brook? Have you seen that? You remember Amir Khan versus Canelo Alvarez? Have you seen that? And that was a 2-divisional jump. This ninja, I don't care if he's the wizard of boxing. He's doing 3-divisional jumps. It's different. They hit different. They can take punches different. I've never seen Canelo get dropped, far less Canelo getting stopped by Crawford. Are y'all out of your minds? Can Crawford win that fight? No, he can't win that fight. No, he can't. No, it's too much going against him. Canelo's too big, too strong, just way too big, too strong. Y'all say some stupid shit. Some stupid shit. I don't care how great he thinks he is. I don't care how skilled he thinks he is. He better have some heat to keep Canelo honest. And Canelo's patient. He's not gonna reach in on a fighter like Spence did, which shocked me. I didn't expect Spence to reach in on Crawford anyway. He's patient. Costa Tszyu, Tim Tszyu's patient. He's not gonna reach in on Crawford. And that's Tim Tszyu. Tim Tszyu is nothing compared to Canelo. Nothing. He might cut off the ring a little bit better, but he's nothing compared to Canelo. Canelo's a whole different level of fighter, man. And y'all disrespect the guy too much. That's the problem. But right now he deserves the disrespect because he is actually disrespecting the sport. He's saying some really dumb, stupid shit that makes no sense about David Benavidez. But all he had to say is, all Canelo had to say was, listen, let's wait a little bit for David Benavidez to get even better. I want to face the best possible version of David Benavidez. I will fight David Benavidez. But I want also payday. I want payday. And he's still not worth that payday I'm looking for. I want that fight to be a super fight. That's all Canelo need to say. He says, I will fight David. All he has to say is, I will fight David Benavidez. He's coming along nicely. But for the kind of money I want, he's got to be built up some more. That's all he had to say. But we can tell Canelo literally knows David Benavidez is a big challenge for him. He knows this. And the fact that he took on Bivol and Bivol whooped his ass, I mean, comprehensively whooped his ass, he probably think David Benavidez would be even worse. But Bivol knows boxing even better than David Benavidez, in my opinion. That's from my eye test. I think Bivol's different. But a lot of people look at what he's doing. He makes it look so easy. He makes it look so simple that they don't understand what he's doing. And you're going to see a separation between Bivol and Beterbiev. Y'all called Beterbiev a monster. Okay. Well, Bivol been asking for that smoke. Been asking for years for that smoke. And he's going to get that smoke. And we'll see. Because Bivol's another guy who runs to the smoke. He don't run from nobody. You got Bivol, you got Usyk, they run to the smoke. Okay? Usyk be running to the smoke. Bivol be running to the smoke. Haney be running to the smoke. Who else? Who else been running to the smoke? Inoue been running to the smoke. Who else we got? Who else we got in boxing that runs to the smoke? They don't make no excuses. They run to the smoke. Benavidez been running to most of the smoke. I ain't seen him running to the Morrell smoke. I don't think he won that smoke with David Morrell. But then again, we'll see. We'll see. He got a long career ahead of him. So we'll see. But David Benavidez been running to the smoke. We got a couple of them, man. We got a couple of them to run into the smoke. You understand what I'm saying? Canelo not running to no more smoke. He's done with that. After Danny Jacobs, he had been running to. I mean, he did run to the smoke with Bivol, but you know, he see Bivol don't knock out nobody. You know, and he had mentioned Beterbiev, by the way. He did mention Beterbiev. You know, and this is the irony of the situation. And a lot of y'all are gonna be like, but you know, I actually think Canelo beats David Benavidez and Artur Beterbiev. I actually think he beats those two guys because they have the style that he likes to fight with. But I just don't see him beating Bivol. It's one of the weirdest things. You know, I think Benavidez puts on a hell of a fight, and because he thinks that Canelo's slowing down, I think he really wants to put it on Canelo. But I don't know. I really don't know. And I'll be honest with you. Canelo is ducking David Benavidez, but I don't know why he's ducking him. If you get what I'm saying. I don't think it. I think he has what it takes to beat him. Just like Troy Killertainment says. I agree with Troy Canelo. I think he beats. I still think he beats David Benavidez. I think it's gonna be a harder fight because David Benavidez got some defense now, but I think Canelo can push him back. I really do. I do. But you know, I think Canelo punches harder than him. I don't know if that's true, but I think he punches harder than David Benavidez. But that gap is quickly closing, and Canelo's not getting any younger. So we'll see what happens. But I am what you need. I thought I would clear the air. That, oh yes, there's one more thing that Goodfella Sports TV did that again, you know, Goodfella Sports TV, I do listen to some of his stuff. I do agree with some of his stuff, but some of the stuff he says is quite reckless. I think it's quite reckless. I mean, Floyd Mayweather, you know, what was he saying about Floyd? I can't even remember. Oh, yeah. He was talking about why doesn't Floyd sponsor, you know, put up the money for certain fights like he was talking about. What fight was it? Floyd put up the money for Bud versus David Benavidez. If he's saying, you know, that's a good, you know, let Bud fight David Benavidez. The thing about it is what Goodfellas Sports TV misses. Floyd's the head of Mayweather Promotions. Floyd works in tandem with Al Heyman's PBC. So, yes, Floyd can put up the money for that, or help put up the money for that, with the TV networks and Amazon Prime, etc. With David Benavidez's promotional company, Sam Lukowitz, Yes, he can do that. And with TGB Promotions. So there's various promotional companies. Of course, Floyd Mayweather can do that. He can make that happen. And he has been making it happen. He made it for Tank. He's talking about Tank versus whoever. I can't remember. It was Lomachenko or whatever. But you have to understand there are other promotional companies like Top Rank. If Top Rank doesn't want Lomachenko to face Floyd, or Lomachenko doesn't want to face Tank, there's nothing he can do about it. Even though I think Lomachenko would jump at the opportunity to face Tank. The question is, will Top Rank allow the other promotional companies the allowance to regulate how the terms and conditions of that fight would happen? So, that's where it gets a little technical. But, yeah, of course, Floyd could do those things. He could put up the money or assist in getting the money put up for these fights. Absolutely. And he has. Well, he did it for, whether you like it or not, Floyd was involved in the Errol Spence versus Terrence Crawford fight. But ultimately, the fighters, it's up to the fighters. If the fighters really want this to happen, they're going to make it happen. Tank don't want it to happen. I remember Floyd wanted Tank to face Lomachenko. And he was gearing it up. And Tank said, Floyd's trying to get me to lose. He's trying to get me to fall. That's what Tank said. And Floyd was like, what the fuck? So Floyd backed off. Now, Floyd, I remember this very well. Floyd pushed Tank into the Jose Pedraza fight. And Tank said Floyd was pushing him in to make him lose. And that's when Floyd started to back off of Tank and not push him hard like he was pushing. Floyd pushes a lot of his fighters, Mickey Bay, all kinds of guys. He pushed them into championship fights. He would push them. Floyd will push the fighter as far as the fighter wants to be pushed. If you want all the smoke, Floyd will give you the fights to put you in the position for all the smoke. But Tank didn't want all the smoke. So Mayweather Promotions backed off. Right? This is the way Floyd was. Floyd, I want to push you into this position. I want to make you greater than I am. But if you don't want to do it, then it's on you. I remember, what's his name? Who got that gig now with Jake Paul? I forgot what his name is. He fought at 160, 168. Detroit kid. I forgot what his name is right now. He's a trainer now. And good trainer, by the way. And Floyd was pushing him hard, and the dude was pushing too. And, people were bashing the kid for, he was fighting guys much bigger than his weight class. I'm going to tell you his name in a minute. And Floyd was pushing, and Floyd pushes every single fighter. He pushes people, but he would advise guys, okay, you're going too fast, or you're going too hard here. You need to back down here. The kid's name is coming to me, but it's disappearing. Like the Adrian Broner thing, where Adrian Broner be going at Floyd and shit. Floyd been pushing Adrian Broner, but there was he was saying, have another fight before you have the Marcus Maidana fight. So Floyd and Al had advised Adrian Broner not to take the Marcus Maidana fight immediately. Adrian Broner wanted to rematch with Marcus Maidana. Floyd took it instead of Adrian Broner because he knew Marcus Maidana was just going to murder him again, right? And it proved Marcus Maidana was a beast. He was beating up Floyd's ass in the first fight. You know what I mean? He was putting it on him. He was butting him and everything, kneeing him. He was using MMA, everything. He said, I'm going to beat your ass one way or the other. He was boxing or otherwise. Floyd still dominated him coming down the stretch. But the point I'm making is Marcus Maidana was not going to be denied. And Adrian Broner was not going to be able to take on the second ass whooping he was going to get from Marcus Maidana. Marcus Maidana was going to whoop his ass the second time. And I know Adrian Broner really wanted that get back, but, So anyway, that's what I got for you guys. I am what you need. I think I covered everything. So with the Floyd thing, no, Mayweather Promotions, Al Haymond's PBC. These are all connected with Floyd. Some of the other promotional companies like TGB Promotions work directly with, Mayweather Promotions. They know everything that's going on. So, yes, he can fund the money for those things, for those fights. It's up to the fighters, really, So, Goodfella Sports TV should know that. Anyways, that's what I got for you guys. I am what you need. And, in fact, he did it with the Ryan Garcia versus Gervonta Tank Davis fight. That's why you saw Lennon Layla be there. Mayweather Promotions was also involved in raising some of the money, helping with the promotion, etc. They're just moving in the shadows. I'm gonna catch you guys later. I'm what you need. Peace.